Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven, and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some malicious compliance stories, and our first story of the day is by Bugme143. I'm just a dumb cashier? Aight, you got it, boss. Background. So this happened recently. I work at a slightly upscale grocery store that's owned by an investment group who constantly make dumb decisions because they think they can buff out the damage that occurs when you yeet a car off a cliff at 90 miles per hour and will come out on top. Recently, we got official uniforms that do nothing but make everyone more annoyed. For example, I work at the front end, cashiering and bagging. Things sometimes get slow or we have too many people scheduled for the given flow of customers, so I started occupying myself by refilling cases as needed or helping other departments when they got slammed or went on smoke breaks. I had originally started in deli, and the current deli manager knew I knew my crap. The meat manager knew I could be trusted to pull from the case and cut, though he wouldn't allow it for insurance purposes, and let me go into the meat rooms constantly to either refill the cases or help unload shipments. I regularly went into the produce back rooms to help restock some of the shelves up front too. Everyone was grateful for the help because the investment group is pinching pennies. I'm also one of the very few who can empty the cardboard baler without issues, speedily, and get the Ford Model T floor machine to work properly. We recently had a reorg where multiple front-end assistant managers were demoted, and we had one outsider and a new hire get promoted. That soured most everyone's mood, especially since the new hire was pretty useless in terms of managing people, doing any sort of tasks, sending people to lunch on time to not screw up the front, and micromanaging, just to name a few issues. The other one was new, but he actually put his back into it and didn't swing his weight around when other people up front knew how to fix issues with the registers, which were created when Moses was walking around, or with customers, many of whom were there when Washington crossed the river. He quickly figured out I knew what I was doing and let me do my thing and trusted me to come back to the front when it was busy or when I was called. He also used please and thank you, which helped. The malicious compliance. So I get pulled into the office by the new hire assistant manager in front of a store assistant manager. She starts questioning me, asking why I'm constantly wandering off and why I don't respect her. And I snapped. I told her that nobody respected her because she threw her weight around and didn't put any effort in, that I'd rather have two of the other new assistant managers over her, and that I wasn't just running to the back to have a wank, I was actually working. Unlike some of the other front-end cashiers, I was constantly called up to the front because I was the fastest bagger and scanner, and other cashiers usually had their nose in their phones. In short, the store assistant manager took her side, didn't listen to a thing I said, and berated me. I was called just a cashier, so I said, "Yup, sure thing," and went back to my cashiering duties. Around this time, my schedule started getting freaked up. I'm not a morning person, but I started getting 10 a.m. and 9 a.m. shifts. I stopped doing everything extra. Walked by the baler when it was full? Oh well, not my job. Deli department is slammed and one of the guys is in the back trying to pull lasagnas from the overloaded freezers? Dang, that sucks, bro. Not too long ago, I get pulled into the office with the front-end manager and the store manager. I explained exactly what the issue was, how much extra work I did, how many more customers I took over the other cashiers, and explained that I wasn't doing anything else and was treating people with the respect I was receiving. To make a long story short, we quietly agreed that the other manager was out of line and that things will change. BS. I plan on not going back to doing what I do until I renegotiate my contract with the store manager because jack crap has changed. Those glue guys are so invaluable to any operation, the kind of people that can fill in any gap and pick up the slack where people need it the most. I know that's probably not a conventional position, but in places like this, it should be. If you were OP and this happened to you, would you not go back to doing all the glue guy type stuff, all the hands and all the other places type work until you got a legitimate pay bump or a legitimate job position change where it covers that stuff? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Theory of Relative T. My appointment was canceled for being 5 minutes late. I guess I have to reschedule. This happened about 4 years ago when I got a summer job at my university. The job was working for professors that I had worked with before, and they asked me last minute to teach a summer workshop to 9th and 10th graders. So with less than 2 weeks before the camp starts, I have a bunch of paperwork to do first, including clearances that say I can work with kids. One of these is an official FBI check for which they need my fingerprints. Well, I needed to do the physical fingerprinting right away in order to get the result in time. Luckily, I was able to book a fingerprinting appointment for that Friday, booked 24 hours in advance as required, which would be just barely enough time to get the result. That Friday, I catch the subway to campus and it's atrociously slow. I'll admit I should have planned for this. The subway here is always behind. Anyway, I end up slightly late getting to campus, so I literally run to the police station and enter the front room at exactly 5 minutes after my appointment time. I know this because, as I stepped through the door, I felt my phone buzz with what turned out to be a "Your appointment has been canceled" email. I speak to the security/cop behind bulletproof glass inside, and I learn the appointment was canceled after he checked my confirmation number. Apparently, they are automatically canceled if you're not checked in within 5 minutes. Obviously, this is outrageous, but I'm usually a patient guy. I ask if I can book a new appointment. That's no good, since it would have to be Monday or later. So I grab a coffee from across the street and return to sit inside the police station to try and solve this with some Googling, while I slip into a more and more frantic state of frustration. I can't find anywhere in the city that can fingerprint me before Monday. But here's what really pushed me over the edge. While I'm sitting there, at this point 30 minutes past my appointment time, someone else comes in for fingerprints. She shows up 5 minutes early. They take her in immediately, and she's out before her appointment was even scheduled to begin. The entire thing took her about 2 minutes. I point out to the cop behind the glass, as politely as I can, that clearly someone could see me right now because her appointment is already over. Why can't I have the current slot? But the cop insists that since my appointment was canceled, my registration info was no longer in the system and I can't be seen today. That's when the idea comes to me, and I confirm with him that showing up early is not a problem, because they would have my appointment and registration info in the system. You see where I'm going with this. So I quietly sit back down and take out my phone. About 10 minutes later, I calmly approach him again and say, "Hello, I have a new appointment to be fingerprinted. I'm about 72 hours early." I've never seen such an exasperated sigh in my life. But he checked my new confirmation number and everything was in order. Within 10 minutes, I was walking back out after getting fingerprinted. How can you have a business in any place that has a subway as a reliable means of transport and have a policy that if you're 5 minutes late, your booking is canceled? Just seems straight up ridiculous. Our next story is by BoogieWoogie0909. Overtime is no longer allowed? Okay. The players. Owner is Jack. Direct supervisor is Will. Colleague is Paula. Myself. Backstory. I began working payroll at 16 years old. I am incredibly good with numbers as well as dealing with clients. Suffice it to say, I am wonderful at what I do. Many years ago, I began working with a very small payroll company with only 4 workers. I really liked the owner, Jack, and honestly still do. He's a decent dude. I also really liked the work and the clients. However, I was not fond of Paula or Will. Paula missed so much work, and I'm pretty sure no one has 5 grandfathers that died within 3 years. She doesn't figure much into the story other than to showcase that she was not a good employee. Will was the worst supervisor I have ever had. He took smoke breaks every 30 minutes, he always thought he was right, he was very racist/sexist, and boy, he loved to talk. There were times where he was monologuing to a client who had hung up 30 minutes prior. No, I am not exaggerating. However, he was the owner's father-in-law whose prior business went bankrupt. Basically, he was never going to be fired. In that work setting, I absolutely shined. I was the best employee by a huge margin. Here is the malicious compliance. Will calls me into his office and lets me know that I am getting too much overtime. This was a small business and I needed to be careful. Now, I never took much overtime. Overall, I usually had around 2 to 5 minutes by the end of the week, simply because I lived 5 minutes away and clocked in when I got in and settled, even if it was a minute early. I agreed to the new rule with a bit of glee. From then on, if I got in early, I would get ready to clock in and then play on my phone or read for 1 minute before clocking in. This drove Will absolutely crazy. After I did this for a few days, he called me back into his office. He told me about the good old days when people would work even without pay in order to excel at life. I politely reminded him that we were a payroll company, so he should be aware that it is illegal to not pay workers for time worked. From that point on, he would simply mutter under his breath and glare at me. The aftermath. After 3 to 4 weeks, the owner, Jack, calls me into his office. Apparently, Will had been complaining about me, how I wasn't working hard and was being disrespectful. I explained the situation to him and pointed out that no clients had ever been unhappy with me, that I showed up to work every day on time, and that I had the most duties with the least problems. Basically, I reminded him I was his only good employee. Jack was a little shocked/annoyed that my tiny amount of overtime was the reason I was sitting in his office. He told me that if I needed it, I could have up to 30 minutes of overtime without needing it to be approved. And he also gave me a small raise for being such a hard worker. Finally, he told me that if Will ever gave me another rule that I disagreed with, I should go directly to him. Jack then called Will into his office, and I heard quite a bit of yelling. When Will came back out, he looked like he had just sucked a lemon. It is my fondest memory of Will. I've heard a few stories like this and it always ticks me off. The shift managers and the bosses who get upset that somebody clocks in 5-10 minutes early on days because they come in the morning and it's not just consistent that they always get there right on time, but yet when the workers do comply to that and only clock in right when the shift starts, they get upset that they're not doing all that work for free for those 5 or 10 minutes. You can't have your cake and eat it too. This next story is by YTrueQ546. Store would not let me return sale item, so I changed it for full price dress and got my money back. In summer 2019, my brother was getting married, and of course I left dress shopping to the last minute. So I bought a dress without trying it on, as I was on my lunch break and there was a sale and a lot of people in queues to dressing rooms. I reasoned that the dress was a bit oversized, so it could not look bad. I was wrong, of course, as it did not look oversized, just big and ill-fitting. The store had a return policy where you could return any items for 30 days and get the cash back, or if the item was on sale, then you cannot get the money back, but instead get a gift card so you can buy something else there. I went back to the store, got the gift card with an intent to just buy something else, but could not find anything I like or that fits. Went back again after a few weeks, but still no luck. And I started to think that just getting my money back would be better. I asked the employee if I cannot just return the gift card for money, but no, not possible. So while hopelessly wandering around the store, I suddenly came up with an idea and went to the same employee. I asked if I buy something from a new collection for full price with the gift card, then can I return it and get my money back? He was a bit taken aback, but confirmed that yes, that is how it works. I asked, what is the point for the policy then if you can bypass it this easy? He said, no one has asked that before, but that employees themselves and their friends are doing it this way. So I took the dress that was right next to the counter. He asked me to wait for a few days before returning it so it would not look suspicious, and checked me out. Came back to the store 2 days later when another employee was working, returned the dress, and got my money back. Honestly, it's pretty crafty thinking. It's always nice to have an over-analytical mind sometimes so you can try and find these loopholes to get exactly what you're looking to do. This next story is by May Haley, Clock Out for Breaks. I waitressed for a while and the owner decided he no longer wanted to pay for breaks, no matter how short, and no more clocking in early. He should only have to pay when it's work-related and no more clocking in early. A lot of us would come in 5 to 10 minutes early so everything would be switched easily and get everything started for our shift, and he still wanted this, but we weren't going to be paid for it. We didn't clock in early, but also didn't help until time. and this made the other staff members have to stay even later. We all began clocking out for anything personal at all, including using the restroom and taking a drink. We also weren't paid for staff meetings because everyone was close and it was no big deal to come in for an hour. But now, every time he called a meeting, we clocked in and out, and if he tried to talk about work-related things after clocking out, we'd go clock back in. He reversed the policy within a week. This is the exact thing I was talking about earlier. They don't want to pay for those 5 to 10 minutes where people are legitimately working, but they still want the work out of them. It just doesn't and shouldn't ever work that way. And our final story of the day is by Devrohit Sharma. No takeaways allowed. Only call and collect. In my city, we are still under lockdown regulations with a curfew that starts at 9 p.m. As such, most restaurants start to close before 7 p.m. and are fully shut down by 8. Earlier this month, I wanted to make use of a burger special from a popular burger joint that rhymes with Mako Ramas. I usually call ahead, however we were close, so we just drove there. When we parked, it was just before 7 p.m. An employee outside said that sit-down is closed, but we could order takeaway as that is closing in 10 minutes. I get to the desk and ask the guy if they are having the special. Can I order the special as takeaway? No, the special is for sit-down or call and collect. But isn't it the same thing as takeaway? No, call and collect. Cue theoretical malicious compliance. So if I called you while standing here, would you take my order? Oh, I see. Yes, okay, I'll just put it through. Got to say, the burger never tasted better. I kinda wish I had the chance to mine the phone call in front of him with a pretend thumb and pinky phone, just to see if he'd play along. I mean, yeah, that's such a technicality. Why would you not be able to go up to the desk and order a special that you can over the phone? You really want me to look you dead in the eye, get the phone number for this place, call you, have you pick up right in front of me just so I can get the special? I mean, if I was OP and they said yes to that, I'd have done it. I'm sure OP would have too. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.